Daniel Voss looked like a man who had already won. He lived above Cape Town in a glass house facing the ocean, drove rare cars, hosted charity dinners, and stood in newspaper photos beside mayors, investors, and smiling clients. People saw polished suits, rooftop parties, and new luxury towers rising from the ground. They saw success. What they did not see was the pressure building behind that perfect image because his company was running out of cash. Creditors were asking hard questions, and several dangerous deals were starting to collapse at the same time. The people closest to him later said he had changed in the final months. His sister remembered that he stopped sleeping well and kept checking his phone during family dinners, as if he was waiting for a message he feared more than expected. A former finance manager told detectives that money had been moved through offshore accounts linked to shell companies, and that Daniel had become obsessed with hiding losses before investors noticed them. One business partner claimed Daniel was trying to cut him out of a land project worth millions. Another said Daniel was receiving anonymous threats from someone who believed they had been cheated. Then investigators learned something even more personal. Daniel had been hiding a secret relationship, one that could have damaged both his marriage and his business if it became public. On a cold, rainy night, Daniel attended a private meeting at a luxury hotel near the waterfront. Hotel staff remembered that he arrived alone, looked tense, and asked twice whether the room had been secured from interruptions. The meeting lasted less than 90 minutes. Security cameras showed two other people entering the suite level, but part of the footage from a hallway camera was later found deleted during the exact window detectives needed most. Just after midnight, Daniel left through a side exit. That was the last confirmed sighting of him alive. By morning, his family reported him missing. Late that afternoon, police found his car parked near the coastline below a stretch of dark ocean cliffs. His phone was still inside, placed neatly on the passenger seat, and his wallet remained untouched. There were no signs of blood, no broken glass, no struggle, and no clear footprints because the rain had washed the ground clean. To some officers, the scene looked staged. To others, it looked like a man had chosen to disappear on purpose. Detective Layla Peterson and Detective Noah Jacobs took the case, and both felt almost immediately that Daniel's public life had been built on secrets. News reports began running daily segments about the missing developer, showing drone shots of the coastline, the hotel entrance, and the silent home where his wife faced cameras with trembling hands. She said he was a loving father who would never leave his children by choice. His brother disagreed in a private interview, saying Daniel had enemies everywhere and trusted the wrong people for too long. Then the phone records came in. In the week before he vanished, Daniel received a string of late-night calls from a prepaid number that could not be easily traced. He also made repeated contact with a woman whose name did not appear in any family statement. When detectives brought her in, she admitted the relationship had lasted nearly a year. She said Daniel told her he was trapped, terrified, and planning to expose people around him. She also said he carried a small flash drive and warned that if anything happened to him, the truth was bigger than just debt. The next twist came from inside his own company. Forensic accountants found suspicious transfers through offshore accounts, hidden contracts, and payments tied to properties that barely existed outside paperwork. One associate broke during interrogation and admitted that figures had been manipulated to keep investors calm. But he insisted financial fraud was only part of the story. He claimed Daniel had recently threatened to name everyone involved, including a senior partner with links to organized criminal networks operating through construction tenders and land deals. As pressure grew, detectives returned to the hotel. A technician recovered fragments of the deleted security footage, enough to show Daniel leaving the suite with another man, not alone as first believed. The man wore a cap low over his face, but his build matched one of Daniel's business rivals, a developer who had publicly feuded with him for months. In questioning, the rival denied meeting Daniel and called the footage meaningless. Then, police found messages between him and one of Daniel's partners discussing panic, cash, and something they both called the coast problem. The final break came from the flash drive. It was discovered inside a safe deposit box Daniel had rented under another company name. On it were account records, voice notes, and a video Daniel had recorded himself. He spoke calmly, but his eyes showed fear. He said he had helped create a fraud network that moved money through property deals, and he believed his partners were preparing to silence him. But the last revelation changed everything. Daniel said if he vanished, investigators should not look only at his rivals. He said the person who knew his movements, his fears, his hotel plans, and his escape options better than anyone was his own wife. Police confronted her with bank records, deleted messages, and proof that she had spoken to one of Daniel's partners hours before the meeting. She finally admitted the marriage had become a war over money, lies, and betrayal. But she was not the mastermind detectives expected. Daniel had planned the disappearance himself. He wanted to fake his death, expose his partners from a distance, and start over with money hidden offshore. His wife agreed to help at first, then panicked when his partners intercepted the plan. According to her statement, they met Daniel at the hotel, forced him into a second car, and drove him away before he could run. His body was never found. The partners were charged with fraud, kidnapping, and murder based on financial evidence, witness statements, and the recovered footage. Yet the missing body left one question hanging over Cape Town. Did Daniel die on that stormy night? Or did the man who built his whole life on illusion somehow escape into one more lie? In the end, the case left behind money, silence, and one brutal truth. The people closest to him knew the danger, and nobody told the full story until it was far too late.